Well, they say it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. But in Atlético Madrid's case, they were strong on both ends. They started hot with 2 goals in the first 6 minutes, and they scored the last 2 goals of the game to tie it up in this 8-game thriller. Guys, we are seeing an Atlético Madrid team that's very different this year, and they do have a very tough stretch of games in this next month. And Nico, you said it yesterday that the next time that we reach this leg 2 of these semifinal games versus Barça, Atlético Madrid, they could be a flop or they could be the best team that Diego Simeone has ever coached.
That's the margin that Atlético Madrid is walking on right now. It could go either way because they have 4 games, I would say, before that second leg of the Copa del Rey semi-final that could be pretty definitive. Starting this weekend against Athletic Club, a team that's sitting in 4th in La Liga, and you don't want to lose pace with the top dogs, one of which is Barcelona, that you're playing again before the second leg. So these are very mentally demanding games that Atletico Madrid are going into, just like the one yesterday. They have that relentless competitive spirit, which is great, but hopefully it doesn't burn them out because you can't put those performances together one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, and not expect to be burnt out. So there's a essence of control that I think Atletico Madrid fans would like to see in their team before they kind of go guns blazing into the most critical part of the season.
Julián Alvarez, what rating are you giving him, Tom?
I'll go with an 8. I thought he was really strong for Atletico Madrid. He was integral to the start of the game, again, with the goal, with the assist. He typifies this attack in the way that he kind of moves and makes players around him better while getting his. I thought he was very good on the day. 8.
Yeah, I'll go for an 8 as well. 5th goal in Copa del Rey. He has been a really top-level performer, I would say, for the last 2 or 3 months. It was a bit of a slow start for him. He is fitting into this team. He's a perfect identity fit for Diego Simeone, and I really do appreciate the way that this player has developed. Let's be honest, when you're kind of in the shadow of Erling Haaland at Manchester City, there is a different expectation. He played in every Premier League game. He was an important player for Manchester City, but there's a different thing when you are relied upon to deliver the goods game in, game out. I think he's starting to live up to that now.
Yeah, and he's growing and he's turning into a different type of player. He was a compliment. He was a sensational compliment to Erling Haaland. That's why for me, graphics, 8 and best player of the game. Although Atletico Madrid didn't dominate, but his shift that he put in was worthy of a man of the match performance, and he goes from being that compliment to Erling Haaland, playing beautiful football. I think there was such a sensational compatibility between those two, and now he's really taken ownership of his role at Atletico Madrid, so much so that it's invaluable. I'm throwing money at the wall for this type of player. If he's going to be running like he's running in the 89th minute physically, you must say, and I'll give Atletico Madrid their physio or their fitness trainer. I'm giving him an 11, right? Because the way that Atletico Madrid is running to the 90th minute is sensational.
Sensational compatibility. That was beautiful, Nico. I'm going to steal that.
So you look at some of the players that this team has, that Atleti has, that really impacted this game. Some new signings over the summer, so it's time for our Zillow new home search. Guys like Julián Alvarez, Alexander Sorloth. I mean, Alvarez scored the first goal for Atleti to start it off, and Alexander Sorloth is the one that helped get them the goal.
Yeah, the equalizer.
Yeah, the equalizer. I'm slacking here.
And he scored the late-winning goal in the La Liga match. For me, Alvarez, I think, is the pick of this bunch. When you look at the 20 goals that he has now, having scored his 20th on Tuesday night.
You see that 82 million price tag on Julián Alvarez, but he's invaluable. What he brings to the table, no one else on Atletico Madrid can bring. Without Julián Alvarez, this Atletico Madrid team wouldn't be what they are right now.
This was one of those signings where we talk about the transfer market all the time. We talk about what does a team need, who could be fit. This was the most no-brainer transfer, and it came to be, and it's working out exactly as they hoped.
But there were questions at the beginning.
Yep.
They were very impatient with Atletico Madrid, with Julián Alvarez, the media. And I mean, you don't have to convince me, right?
Who cares?
Yeah,
but I do think, though.
But he's come through.
He has 25 goal contributions in just over 2,500 minutes. So we looked at that stat, like, again, going by appearances, which makes sense. But his per game ratio, his per minute ratio, the underlying numbers, he's in the dark green towards like the 85th percentile and better among La Liga forwards, among Champions League forwards, among everybody. This is a world-class player. This was an excellent signing.
Yeah, and I do think that with Atletico, they don't have the resources that everybody else does. And so when they take a swing like this, it has to connect. And we've seen them kind of have this last era stunted by the swing they took, for example, on Joao Felix, on Thomas Lemar, that didn't quite work out. And so for Julián Alvarez to actually be delivering, it was close to a guarantee, but it wasn't a complete guarantee that it worked out like this. And he has now really started in these last 2 or 3 months to hit his stride, and now he has to carry this team into the business end of the season.
Witty, how about Javi Galán? What would you give him for his performance yesterday?
I mean, he was probably lucky to not get subbed off at halftime. I'll probably give him a 4. Oh, I mean, actually, I'm probably down. I'll go 3. Sorry, Graphics Team. 3. Yeah, I'll give him a 3.
Base is always 4, so you're going even lower.
Yeah, I'm going for a 3 just because when you are absolutely tormented, and you probably should be subbed off at halftime, and they're conceding those goals, and Lamine Yamal is having you on toast. I think when you become the liability of the team, I think you have to drop that rating that little bit lower.
So for me, it's a 4. Yes, he had his hands full. I don't know if he got torched the whole game because there were a couple of duels that he won with Lamine Yamal individually. He did get booked, and in our group chat, when I asked for the sub at halftime, when I said Reinigo for Galán, I wanted it because he was booked and because Lamine Yamal was going to keep on attacking him. He needed to be removed, and Cholo reacted a couple of minutes later after the half in order to switch over for Mandava.
3. He couldn't handle Lamine Yamal. Not many players can, but he struggled really bad on the day.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to give him an 8. I think that Rafinha was probably the more impactful player in the game, in my judgment, but Yamal still was absolutely cooking down that right side and absolutely giving the Atleti fullback Javi Galán an absolute run around for the course of the game. So Yamal delivering that creativity. We're talking during the break. I think this Barcelona side are creative against absolutely everyone they come up against, and Yamal is such a key part of that. So I'll go for an 8.
8 for me as well. He typifies what this team does in the attack. It's such beautiful, tantalizing football with a youthful exuberance. But the duality of this team is how poor and naive and shocking, honestly, defensively they were. But looking at the attack, looking at Lamine Yamal, he delivered. He was absolutely cooking every single time he got the ball on that flank. He was awesome. 8 for me.
Yeah, I think he would have needed like a goal. I understand his assist kind of opened up the game for Barcelona at one point, and it could have been a little bit greater the difference that Barcelona set. Well, there was really no difference, but at one point the game could have been 3-0, right? For Barcelona, they looked like a 3-goal difference for Barcelona, not 3-0. There was a chance that Lewandowski missed, but Lamine Yamal was very involved. For me to give him an 8, I would have liked like another goal or another assist because he was cooking. Javi Galán had his hands full the entire game up until he was subbed off. So I'm going to give him a 7, and that definitely sets my standard for the rest of my grading today.
And that's what they're used to seeing with Diego Simeone teams. Like 4-4 draw is the antithesis of what we're used to seeing with this club. It was a lot of fun. It was wide open. It was really sloppy on both sides. But this is not what we're used to with this team. It is a completely different iteration of Atletico Madrid right now.
And I think it is an indication somewhat that this isn't necessarily the competition that they are prioritizing. Now you can kind of have a little bit of a shift in mentality because the second leg is not for 5 weeks, which is a very bizarre feature of this Copa del Rey. But I think because it's not for 5 weeks, you can say we're playing a first leg as long as we don't get smoked in the first leg.
But they almost did, though.
Right.
Right.
I don't think they should have.
I disagree in the sense that they're not prioritizing the Copa del Rey. Atletico Madrid has been put together. They have a super team, Chris. They can't afford to just say, all right, Copa del Rey, meh. Against Barcelona, meh. Because by the time they get around to the second leg, they could be out of the Champions League to Real Madrid. They could be out of La Liga title race way too soon. And then you got to make do with a Copa del Rey. The way that this team has been put together, you look at it on paper, and you must compete on everything. I couldn't imagine a Real Madrid or a Barcelona saying, Copa del Rey, we'll brush it to the side when you're playing one of the other top teams in Spain.
Especially when all the big three giants are into the semifinal stage.
How about Pedri, who got the first goal for Barca?
Yeah, I'll give him a 7. I understand that he does get a goal in the game, and he is such a wonderful operator in that midfield. He does such a great job of drifting in between the lines and popping up in good spots. I do think that when you give up 4 goals and you're meant to provide some of that balance in midfield, that some of that responsibility falls to him. So I'll give him a 7 for the game.
Yeah, I'm leaning 6 just because, as you said, Witty, I think a lot of their issues came in defensive transition, and I don't pin that totally on Pedri. I think that has much more to do with Frankie de Jong. He cannot be the single pivot or double pivot in this kind of game, in this kind of team. You look at some of those athletic goals and some of their chances, it was just really naive and silly. So I'm not pinning all of that on Pedri, but you know who you're playing with and what the game requires. He needed to do a little bit more defensively. Again, going forward on the ball, he was very, very solid. I'll give him a 6.
For me, it's a 7. There's a thing that Barcelona has, which is balance, and he offers a lot of that balance and control. For the large bouts of this game, Barcelona controlled it. Now there's questions that Hansi Flick has to ask himself as to why they're losing control all of a sudden at the beginning and towards the end, and why they shut off and why they're not able to see a game like this out. But the main guy to that success and to that balance and to that control of these large majority of the bouts of these games is because of Pedri.
You guys keep talking about the defensive issues of this team. So what would you grade Jules Koundé?
I'd say a 5. Look, again, he created the goal with an assist. But you look at the highlights that Witty just ran through so expertly. He was charging forward. It's just such naive defending. And he has a much different job this year than he did under Xavi. Hansi Flick wants his fullbacks to get forward. And that's where they're exposed defensively. So that's, again, when you concede 4 goals and he was around it as much as he was, the assist was really nice. What I want from a fullback, again, somebody who it was a center back when signed and who can play center back, and that might be his best position in the future. Who knows? For somebody like this, I care more about defensive acumen.
Mm-hmm. I'll go for a 6. Just because of that attacking involvement. Understood that when you're a member of the back line, when you give up that many goals, that you're probably not going to get a 10. But I do think that Koundé has, in my view, fairly dramatically improved in getting forward and picking up the right ball, not just getting into that position, because he got into that position plenty.
Providing assists, being an impact maker, difference maker. Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
He's
been
sensational.
Much better creatively, in my view.
Jules Koundé, but yes, a member of the backline, especially when you play so high and you do concede 4 goals and you get exposed, especially on that left-hand side that at one point Atlético Madrid really started channeling that area. Their attack was going through that area of the field. I can't give him higher than a 5.
I think
without a doubt, I understand that Champions League is the most important, and La Liga too, almost at the same level.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like we're minimizing their Copa del Rey effort here, because they could have potentially a final if they do make it to the final against Real Madrid, and because it's a 4-4 game, saying that they don't necessarily care as much about this game. I don't think any footballer goes into a game saying, all right, we don't care about this, just let's go and have it be vibes football. The nature of the game, having had those 2 very early goals, kind of set the tone for Barcelona to have this counter reaction into the dynamic of everything that was playing out, so much so that they got 4 goals. Yes, there were a couple moments that were extremely uncharacteristic of a Cholo Simeone-led Atlético Madrid, which is concede 2 goals from a corner kick at the same post, almost identical, right? Cholo Simeone is not going to be happy about that, and he's going to have to sort those things out. But from what I heard Cholo Simeone say in the press conference is that he's proud of the team.